So I actually got out of the real estate business and the mortgage business before the collapse. I just had the intuition. No, I had the intuition because my lawn guy was rehabbing houses. My pool guy was rehabbing houses. None of these people had any training or experience. And I'm like, okay, if everybody, their brother's getting in, it must be time to get out. And I sold everything.
This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. We're going to do a little sidestep today because, no matter how much money you make, no matter how successful you are, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And anyone who's been sick knows it. Anyone who's even been remotely not sick or just didn't feel good for a day, imagine if that persisted for a long time. And so we're going to talk about health and the big C and a lot of different things here today, just kind of like a public service announcement, because there's some things going on in the world today that you need to know about that a lot of people aren't going to tell you about. You kind of have to live it and meet people that are living it to get it. So today on the line, we have Jacki Simon, and I met her through a group, a mastermind group with the infamous Ron LeGrand, no doubt, and a bunch of energetic, smart, forward-thinking people there. And she was the new girl in the room, and we got introduced to her, about a month or so ago. And I was just fascinated by her story. She's high energy, she's beautiful, and she is a fighter, a son of a gun fighter, okay, and has got a story to tell, and I want to hear that story. So how you doing today, Jacki?
I'm doing great, Mitch.
Okay, well, the other side of this coin is we're going to be talking about health, but Jacki's no stranger to business and investing in real estate. She's owned a mortgage company, did well with that, and then I guess the debacle came, and then she's owned title companies. She's flipped a lot of houses, and besides that, she likes to trade some stocks, do some coin collecting, and even paid for the furnishing of her own beautiful home with blackjack winnings. Okay, so this girl's she got a brain. She's also not afraid to jump. So, Jacki, tell us a little bit more about you and where you're from, and then we'll jump into the health scares that you've had and how you conquered them.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Mitch. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida, which is in the Panhandle. And I actually moved out to your neck of the woods. I think it was in 1981 to Dallas, Texas. Fort Worth, Texas, actually, is where I lived for 6 years. And that's where I got into the mortgage business. That was my first thing because they changed from just the banks doing it to having mortgage companies. And I did really, really well. And then the company, of course, then in 86 is when the oil prices, everything crashed in Texas. And the company I was working for then moved me to Clearwater, Florida, which is where I've been living since 1986. And it's been, quite an exciting ride. I got into the rehab business. That was fun. I was fortunate to meet Ron LeGrand early in my career. And of course, I love Ron. He tells it like it is. And that's the way I like it. I don't like all this just, pie in the sky kind of stuff. I like the real story. Tell me the bad case, and so I did and he does, right?
He certainly has no problem with that.
No, I know.
He tore me up a few times.
Yeah, me too, and still is. So that was almost 30 years ago. And so I was flipping houses and then became president of the investor group here. And then was wondering how in the world people afforded to buy these houses and stuff. And, so, I had lots of friends with money. And so I started raising money and opened up a hard money mortgage company. And all I did was lend money to people who rehabbed houses, since that's kind of what I knew best. And I was still rehabbing houses myself. And then I was doing so well in that business that I just stopped rehabbing houses, opened up a title company. That was dumb, but just a lot of employees, a lot of headaches and stuff like that. So I actually got out of the real estate business and the mortgage business before the collapse. I just had the intuition. No, I had the intuition because my lawn guy was rehabbing houses. My pool guy was rehabbing houses. None of these people had any training or experience. And I'm like, okay, if everybody, their brother's getting in, it must be time to get out. And I sold everything. So I missed it when everything tanked.
Good for you. You have some super instincts there.
Yeah. Well, I felt like I was missing out because it was probably maybe 2 more years that it continued just to go sky high. But I'm the kind that I never would take my money. I just roll it into the next property. I would have lost everything, just like most of my friends did, when the market crashed.
So you're chugging along, life is good, and then in 2015, something happens.
Yeah, I go for my annual, breast exam. And I remember thinking it was just a beautiful day. And I thought, wow, I'm always in a good mood. And they found a big old lump. And so even my positive thing, I still didn't think it was anything. And so I had MRIs and whatever. Long story short, we find out that I had stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. And if you Google triple negative, it's like the worst breast cancer you can get. It's got the lowest survival rate and the highest rate of cancer returning. And most people don't survive it. It's just one of those, it's not one they study. It's not common. And so they just put together a super duper strong cocktail of chemicals and throw it at you. And if it doesn't kill the cancer, it usually kills the patient. And I wasn't going to have any part of that.
Absolutely. And your tumor was very aggressive. It quadrupled in size in 90 days, I understand.
That is correct. So usually, and I didn't realize until I went to the hospital and the nurse tells me, she says, you've got the fastest growing triple negative cancer we've ever seen at this hospital. And so most people, there's like on a biopsy, it usually ranges between 25 and 35% is how aggressive it is. Mine was 93.8%. It was growing like a monster.
That got to be some great news to get in the morning, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
Okay, so you decide for lots of different reasons, but there's so much to talk about. Let's get right on with it. You decide that quality of life is more important to you, and that you're not going to take 1 ounce of chemo, and you don't take 1 ounce of chemo.
Not 1 ounce. Not 1 ounce. My husband knew, and my family knew before I got cancer. I had kind of, had some issues with Western medicine already because I got a flu shot. I used to be a competitive tennis player. I get a flu shot. 2 hours later, I lost the use of the whole right side of my body. I lost the vision in my right eye, couldn't raise my right arm up, couldn't even hold my hair dryer, couldn't walk. I would fall down. It's like my whole right side of my body was just numb and it just wouldn't function. And I became 100% disabled. And so I had gone to gazillions of doctors, tried all kinds of things, and nothing was working. It just put me on pills. I was a zombie. Nothing worked. And so, go ahead.
That's what they do. They don't try to fix anything. They just want to mask the symptom. So you knew that if a flu shot was going to do this to you, that you had no business taking a volley of the most toxic cocktail they could give you for an aggressive cancer called chemo. It just made sense for you to say, I can't have any part of it. It'll kill me.
Right.
Damn near killed me.
That's right.
So you really didn't have a choice in your mind. And so you had to go completely 100% holistic. As you might have guessed, she survives. She's here.
Still here.
Okay. So you make this monumental decision to forego chemo. First of all, I bet you the doctors around you had a hissy fit. I bet you.
To say the least. I mean, literally, so, I had to have that tumor removed. Even with the holistic thing I did, it's called the Gerson therapy, Gerson. And they even recommended that if you have a tumor on the outside of your body, it's not on the inside where all this nutrition can help, the body to heal itself, that you have the mass removed. And so I played the game. I acted like I was going to do everything they said. I went to the oncologist. I did all the stuff they told me to do. But on the day of surgery, I would not sign the consent form to allow them to put a port in or to remove all my lymph nodes or anything like that. And man, oh man, oh man, if you could have been there. I mean, my poor husband, my mom, and my sister were all standing outside the room when the surgeon was in there just screaming with his veins bulging out of his neck, telling me I'm going to die. You're going to die. Do you know you're going to die? And of course I get a copy of my surgical notes, and he was saying I'm a non-compliant patient. That was the way he described me, because I would not let them do anything but remove my breast. And that was it.
You were very smart, because if you'd have told them ahead of time, or if you would have told them that you wanted to go natural, they'd have shut you down and you'd have not gotten anything.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have removed it. So, no. I mean, the AMA won't, from my limited experience, but from what I know from other people, they don't believe in anything except their way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other ways that have been successful for other people like yourself, they don't make any money off of that, to say the least.
Right.
A lot of these cures are, I say cures, a lot of these techniques that people use that end up prolonging their life are natural. They're, I'm pretty sure that we already know the cure for cancer somewhere out there, not me, but someone, and it's medicine. It ain't modern medicine.
No.
And so you choose this other path. How did you find Gerson, Gerson, Gerson therapy? Are you just researching your butt off at this point?
No, this is the greatest story ever. I mean, it was very God-sent. I'm just telling you. 6 years before I got cancer, I'm at a Ron LeGrand boot camp in Jacksonville. And there was a speaker that was going to be somewhere in close to the Clearwater area on that Sunday afternoon. And I never like to leave events early, but I really wanted to go hear this speaker on Sunday afternoon. So, I mean, I'm going back and forth. And finally I decided, I've been to a few boot camps of Ron's, and I'm like, you know what? It's not going to hurt me to leave an hour or two early. So I left and I went to this thing. There was an old Italian man sitting next to me, and we got to talking. He was a vegetarian. We got to talking about documentaries that we had seen on Netflix and stuff. And he says to me, have you ever watched the documentary, The Gerson Miracle? And I said, never even heard of it. So I pulled out my phone and I put it, in my notes on my phone to watch it. Well, a few weeks later, I'm flipping through Netflix and I come across that thing. I'm like, oh, that's that video, that documentary that old man wanted me to watch. So I start watching it and everything, and I go through it. And I look at my husband. I said, I wonder why he wanted me to watch that. This is all about people with cancer. I don't have cancer. And so that was that. And I said to my husband, I said, if I ever got cancer, this is the kind of thing I would do. End of story.
You watched it?
Yeah.
You watched it even though you didn't have cancer, so you watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just watched it.
This is kind of a God thing.
It is.
Sounds like a God thing to me,
Yeah. All right, so you fast forward 6 years later, and I get that phone call, I'm sorry to tell you you've got cancer. And, I hung up the phone and I thought, okay, I was a big talker. Oh, I'm never going to do chemo and radiation. It's easy to say that when you don't have cancer, right? And so I thought, what was the name of that documentary I watched 6 years ago? And so I went on Netflix, couldn't find it, went on YouTube, or typed in natural cancer cure documentaries, and it was the first one that popped up. So I sat there and I rewatched it all again. Honestly, Mitch, it was like somebody just came up behind me, put their arms around me. It's like, this is what you need to do. It's like that warm feeling I got all over going, this is it. And I looked over at my husband. I said, that phone call I got about an hour ago, it was, them calling saying that I have cancer. And, I always said I would never do chemo and radiation, and I don't want to do it now. And, it's like, how do you feel about that? And so he knew, he saw what happened to me. I mean, he saw this, super athletic, energetic person get taken down with one stinking little flu shot that I didn't even need. And he saw what all I went through to try to get back to where I could function again. And so he knew, and we knew without a doubt that if I took one drop of chemo that I wouldn't be here. And so we were both on board, and, he's whatever you need, whatever I can do to support you, we'll do it.
So I suspect that a lot of the doctors were on your case, pressuring you, telling you nasty things like you're going to die. I mean, what a great thing to say to a person in that. Yeah. But did you have pressure from family members or outside friends or anything?
Well, I was very fortunate that the people that really matter to me, my children, my mother, my sister, my husband, all those people, 110% on board. I mean, they all of them knew I wouldn't survive chemo, wouldn't even. And so, of course, then I was getting, millions of people, calling me, texting me, messaging me. Everybody had an opinion about what I should do. So I finally put on Facebook, I would do this thing on my personal Facebook page called Healing Update. And I put out there, you have to understand, I live in a community, I'm like 5 minutes away from like one of the top 100 hospitals in the United States. All my friends are either doctors, nurses, or married to a doctor or a nurse. And oh my God, when I posted, that this is what I have, I am not going to do the traditional, it's called gold standard, chemo radiation surgery. And I'm doing a different natural route. Oh my God. I mean, I became the talk of the town for forever and ever. It seemed like for over a year. And the thing is, my following really increased because, I would always post every time I'd get blood work done, every time I would go to an appointment. I mean, I posted everything. Just like you were my mom or dad, I was just telling you the story. I mean, I just told it to everyone. I didn't hold anything back. And so everyone started seeing that, it's like, wow, I was the healthiest looking cancer patient they'd ever seen. And so it's just funny. And now they all think, wow, we think you have it right. We think you've got this thing down.
Well, it just goes without, I think we need to say, it's a very personal decision. You got to do what you got to do. It worked out for you. It's worked out for a lot of people, but there's people that went natural, it didn't work out for, whether they were committed enough or chose the right plan or whatever. So no one's offering a silver bullet here at all. But there is a lot of stories of people that survived doing things that you did or similar things that you did. So tell us what you did.
Okay, so basically the Gerson therapy is, and it's hard. I will tell you, this is way harder than going through chemo. So I had to do 13 fresh pressed juices every day, one every hour. And what the theory behind that is you want to flood the body with nutrition, okay? And it can't be like juice, like a Vitamix kind of thing. It has to be juice where you're separating the fiber from the juice. And the reason for that is most people that have cancer, they are malabsorbed. They cannot absorb nutrition. And so that's why you always hear about people with cancer always juicing, is because that nutrition just goes in and just floods the tissues and stuff. And so
so 13 juice glasses a day. How big is this glass?
Oh, well, it's not. Well, so they're not that big. It's 8 ounces. But here's what I'm telling you. I was buying, I wish I had my list. If I'd known we were going to go through Gerson, I would pull my grocery list. Oh my God. I bought 75 pounds of carrots a week. Yeah, I mean, I was hauling big old 25-pound bags, over my shoulder. I'd go to my local, organic, food place and stuff. And literally it was 75 pounds of carrots a week. Yeah. So, I had to buy about 50 Granny Smith apples a week, 20 of the green bell peppers. I mean, you just can't imagine my grocery. We would go to the grocery store like 3 days a week because we didn't have refrigerating big enough to, house all that stuff. And luckily for me, I hired, full-time help. I had someone come Monday through Friday. She would buy all my groceries. She would clean all the produce. She would make all the juices. And I'm telling you, it was a full-time job because you can't juice them and then put them in the refrigerator. Yeah, so you need to juice these things fresh and drink them right then because you need the living enzymes. If you're going to be a cancer person, you need those living enzymes. And I have this kick butt juicer. It's called a Norwalk juicer. And this is so funny.
Say it again. What?
Norwalk, Norwalk. And I'll tell you because, when I got the Gerson book, there's a book, called the Gerson Therapy or something like that. And it had in there, it just kept saying you had to have a Norwalk. You had to have a Norwalk juicer. And I'm like, okay, I go on there. And this thing was like $2,600 for this Norwalk juicer. And I'm like, there is no juicer worth $2,600. I was in the middle of rehabbing a house and I was trying to decide whether to put in a new air conditioner or not. And it's like, okay, air conditioner, juicer, air conditioner, juicer. I was going back and forth. But when I saw they had this, you have to look at this, and they had this little thing, and it showed like carrots. If you use like a regular, I call it your recreational juicer. I'm just using examples. Let's say you get, maybe 200 milligrams of vitamin C out of a carrot if you use a recreational juicer. Then they show some other kind of juicer. You get down to the Norwalk juicer. When you juice a carrot, it was like 2,500 and something milligrams. So the amount of juice they extracted out of that, and the fact that, again, because it's a cold pressed juicer, so it doesn't kill the living enzymes like a regular other kind of juicer. So you just get so much more benefit. So obviously I needed to live. And so I thought, well, I guess I'll go ahead and get the juicer. And that sucker is a workhorse. I mean, that thing can grind. I've got palm trees. I'm in Florida. I mean, you can literally grind palm trees with that thing. It's amazing what that juicer can do. And it's a lot easier to clean up than those kind that we buy at the store, where you got to clean all the junk out of the middle. I mean, it's a very easy, anybody who just wants good health and wants to juice or whatever, it's a fabulous juicer, and I do highly recommend it.
So let's be under no illusions. You had full-time help. You obviously didn't have a job. Were you making any money?
Oh my gosh, no, I was working still. I mean, I've always been self-employed, so I still have my real estate. But you know how it is with real estate. That's a tough job. In my case, the way I do real estate, I just had to walk to the mailbox and get my checks and then take a picture of them and deposit them into my account. I had very low maintenance real estate. So
okay, and you had some help, and then my gosh, what is your grocery bill every week with this?
Well, just for me, and this is only the partial, this was just the produce part of it, I was spending, I would think about $250 a week on my produce, just for me. That didn't count my husband or anybody else. That was just mine. And that wasn't even all of it. So, I mentioned that, you do 13 fresh juices a day. Well, the other half of the Gerson therapy is you have to do coffee enemas. You know what that is?
I know what an enema is, and I know what coffee is. I think I can put two and two together.
Well, that is so true. And I'll never forget when I ordered the Gerson book, and right when I found out for sure I had cancer, and yes, I'm going to do this, I got the book, and I'm flipping through, and they kept talking about these coffee enemas, and I'm like, oh, I can skip this chapter. I don't have any problems in that department. And I just kept going, and everybody kept saying, you have to do these coffee enemas, and it's the best part of the whole therapy. And I'm like, these people are nuts. Well, yeah, I had to do 5 coffee enemas a day. Every day.
5 coffee enemas a day.
A day. And so here's the funny thing. So, those of us that do this, I mean, it becomes quite the joke, is that, we always say we're on a coffee break, or that we're going to Starbucks.
Starbucks? You gotta laugh, right? So, I don't want to get too personal, but the question just is right there. Is this something you do by yourself, or do you have to have help doing that?
No, you can do it by yourself. So, you have, there's a recipe because you want, concentrated coffee. And so you just have a little bucket, and well, you can imagine the rest of it, but you have to put it in there, and you have to hold it. The hard part was holding it for the 10 to 15 minutes. And you're using, I think, well, let me step back, 32 ounces of this coffee that goes inside of it. It's not like a little bit, like a cup. We're talking 32 ounces that goes into you. You're laying on your right side. You hold it for 10 to 15 minutes. But I will tell you, and I know this seems crazy, of the whole therapy, it honestly was the best part of the whole therapy. It really was. So one, you get a chance to just relax. So you're laying there for 10 to 15 minutes. That is until you're looking at your watch and your stomach's starting to cramp, and you're thinking, oh my God, I still got 4 more minutes to go. How am I going to do this? And you hang on. It's one though, it just cleans you out really good. And you just gives you energy. I don't know how to describe it. It just really was once you got the hang of it, it was really a great process, honestly.
So what was the importance? What did the coffee enema, what does it do for you?
That's a great question. Okay. So it pushes all the nutrition's pushing all into your cells and pushing all the bad stuff out and into your body. Well, your liver can only handle so much of the toxins. Okay. And a lot of these people have already done chemo radiation before they even get to a Gerson thing. And so their body is just as toxic. I mean, it was toxic before all of that, right? And so your liver can only handle so much. So the liver produces this thing called glutathione S-transferase. And the way they describe it is like a flypaper, sticky flypaper that catches all the toxins and it pulls it out of the body. Well, when you do coffee enemas and that coffee is circulating through your liver, through your blood, like every 3 minutes, then what happens, it causes your body to produce 600 times more glutathione than if you didn't do it. So you've got that much more that can collect all those extra toxins that are in your body. And so they tell you, if you're not going to do the coffee enemas, don't do the juicing. Because you can become,
blow your liver out, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So do you ever wonder, who invented this?
Well, if you read Dr. Gerson's book, I mean, there's a real Dr. Gerson. The Gerson therapy was a real doctor way back in the day, a brilliant doctor. And he was a medical doctor. And he, learned all these different things. Again, the story's not fresh on my mind, right now. It's been 3 years since I really read anything. But I mean, the story's phenomenal. And but the sad part of it is he was curing cancer and a lot of other diseases. So this Gerson therapy is not just for cancer. What it does is it helps your body to heal itself. So it doesn't matter what's in the way. If you've got, other diseases, like joint pain or, migraine headaches or whatever, it helps the body to heal itself. And if cancer is in the way, then it just helps with that as well. It just does everything. And so, but he lived in, I think it was Germany. And of course, wouldn't you know, he moves to the United States, is healing cancer in New York. And he's, some news person picks up on it and starts telling his big story and everything. And wouldn't you know, the medical board, everybody comes in.
The AMA shuts him down.
Shuts him down. The story it's a very sad story. It makes you really angry when you read the story. It's amazing.
My dad went through the same thing with a book called A World Without Cancer by Griffin. And this things
I know that. Is that the one with the Laetrile?
Yeah, the Laetrile and the apricot seeds that have.
I read that
book. Same thing happened to him. And I know the reason why I'm so intrigued about this subject and the reason why I want to have you on, even though this is a real estate show, is that it's so important and so many people have so many problems that I'm just going to take a time out for a public service announcement and let people know there's other ideas out there. If they're for you, they're for you. If they're not, they're not. But my dad has personally sat with 3 people that have come home. They have been sent home to die. It's over. Can't do any more for you. Go home, make yourself comfortable, call hospice, and die. And then went on a regiment of apricot seeds and some stuff, and they're still here.
Yeah.
And the one out of the 4 that died from a crack in his femur from the chemo that got infected. He died from the chemo. A year later, still died from the chemo because of the effects of the chemo on their bones. But they didn't have cancer when they died. They died from an infection of femur.
Right.
So how long does this regiment go? I mean, you're doing 5 coffee enemas a day, drinking 13 glasses, 8-ounce glasses of juices a day, constantly going back and forth from the produce in the grocery store. Are you eating anything else? Can you have anything else?
It is an extremely, extremely restrictive diet. I mean, the crazy things that you think would be okay to eat, like avocados, couldn't have avocados. Couldn't eat basil. I mean, there was some crazy certain spices. You couldn't have those either. And so, you could eat. I actually had oatmeal for breakfast in the morning, with berries, and you'd have lunch. It'd be like a baked potato, but you couldn't put anything on it, so it's not like it was exciting to eat. We got, you had to eat, lightly steamed veggies. So, I have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. But I'll be honest with you, when you first start and you're trying to, get down 13 juices, I know that doesn't sound like any big deal. I am telling you.
You're probably not hungry.
You're not hungry. And so here's the thing that used to kill me. I'm only 4'11". I'm a tiny little person. And I'm consuming 4,500 calories a day. Now, most people, when they get cancer, you know what they look like. I mean, they look like death, right? I gained 20 pounds. It's like, why do I have to consume as much as a linebacker? I mean, 4,500 calories on a 4'11" person, I mean, it was crazy. But, I gained 20 pounds. But then things started to stabilize. Once my body adjusted, to the juices and all the stuff, then, I was fine.
So, how long did this go on?
Okay, so it's a minimum of 2 years.
Oh my God.
Minimum.
You really want to live.
I did. No, you know what I did want to live, but I really wanted to prove those doctors wrong.
Was that the deal? Was that your angst? Like, I'm going to show them?
It was. Yeah. So let me tell you this part of the story. So even though I was never going to do chemo or radiation, I had to go to the oncologist every 3 months. So this is me. So I would go to the oncologist, and of course he's telling me, I'm making a big mistake. When he found out I didn't have the port put in and I was making a big mistake. And so anyway, so he's like, your kind of cancer is so aggressive, it comes back really fast, and and blah blah. He would give me a script for blood work that include the cancer markers. They want to check everything, your livers and all that. And so I'm like, there is no way I'm going to go get this blood work done and have him see it before I get to see it and interpret it. So I had a doctor. I had a Gerson doctor in Australia.
Wow, you are smart. You are so smart.
Well, I'm telling you, they were nothing but gloom and doom. I mean, nothing but gloom. I mean, they beat up on me every chance they could to try to put the fear that I wasn't going to live. And, and when even doing what I was doing, I didn't know if I was going to live or not. But there was just no way I would live doing what they wanted me to do. There was no doubt.
Someone to interpret it in the most positive fashion you could.
Exactly.
Hitting you between the eyes with all the negative and running you down.
Exactly.
So you started off, was there a difference in the reports?
No. So here's the thing. So I had a doctor, a natural doctor, who was my Gerson doctor, and she was in Australia. And she always required that I get the certain blood work. And it was pretty much the same as what the oncologist wanted. So there was a clinic local that, I would go get vitamin C IVs and stuff like that. And so they would I would take my doctor script, I'd give it to them. I said, rewrite this script. They would rewrite the blood script. I would go get my blood work done. They would get the report and they would email it to me. My doctor in Australia, because we spent, every 6 to 8 weeks together, and I would ask her, tell me what you're looking at on this report. What are the important numbers that I need to look at? So she would tell me what certain ones meant and what they needed to be. So anyway, this is what was always so funny. So every 3 months I had to go to the oncologist. I would go in with my blood work. They didn't get it emailed to them, okay, because I didn't put them down as my doctor. I would get my blood work. I would go in and give it to the nurse. And so then I would go in my room. The doctor would come in. Wow, your blood work looks great. I'm like, thanks. He says, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel awesome. I'd get up on the table, he would check out my breast and whatever, and his words would be, well, I want to see you in 3 months because your kind of cancer comes back fast. This went on every 3 months. I would go every 3 months, and this is exactly, do you know, to this day, it's 3 years now, and not one of those doctors, and there's 3 of them, not one of those doctors has asked me what I'm doing, not one.
Golly, that's just incredibly kind of pisses you off, really.
Yeah, and that's how I stay motivated. I don't care. Let them make me mad like that because it just motivates me.
Yeah. So along the way, you started doing some things to help other things, to just like maintenance or to help tell us about the Beamer and how you got introduced to it and why.
Okay. Yeah. So this was a crazy story. When all my different friends would be emailing me, telling me I should do this or try this. And I had several of them that kept saying I needed to try this medical device that increased blood flow and oxygen, and I'm just like, no, I had my blinders on. I had one program. That's all I was going to focus on. Well, one thing that I had found out just before I got cancer was that I had very fragile bones. And so one day I was in my car. I go reach over to fix my seatbelt. And when I reached over, I cracked 2 ribs. And I'm telling you, if anybody has ever cracked ribs, that is like the most painful. And I've got a high pain tolerance. And that was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my life. I couldn't even breathe. I was in so much pain. Anyway, that was on a Friday afternoon. And I suffered the whole entire weekend. Without being able to breathe. And I go to the clinic on Monday for my IV. And I told the nurse, it was this young guy. And I'm like, I don't know if I can even do this because I can't move. I can't breathe. He says, well, we've got this medical device here. It's new for them. And he says, I've been reading that it helps horses. They've been using it on horses to help fuse bone. Maybe it'll help with your cracked ribs. And so they stuck, the thing on me. And for like 8 minutes, I get my IV. 30 minutes later, I'm thinking, wow, that pain level is about half of what it was when I walked in here. Yeah, so just doing that 1 8-minute session, like 30 minutes later, I could not believe that the pain level was down like 50%. And it stayed like that way the whole entire day. I slept on it. Yeah, the next morning I woke up, I was, tender. I called them and said, hey, can I come do that thing again? So I went back over there. They put it on me again, and that pain dropped all the way down to I always say that on a scale of 1 to 10, my pain level was about a 15 the first day. And it went down to about a 7. And then when I went in the second day, it dropped down to about a 3. And I'm like, I don't know what the heck this thing is, but I need to find out because I need to own one of these things. So I, come home and I start doing some research and whatever. And, and it was expensive. I mean, it's not a cheap device, but I'm telling you what it did for me. It was like worth every penny of it. And so I told my husband, I said, you know what, we need to own one of these. I don't want to have to go to the clinic every day. I said, we need to own one of these things. So we invested in it. And I am going to tell you that thing changed my life hands down. Hands down.
So you guys don't have to remember all this stuff. You're going to go to reinvestorsummit.com/heal, HEAL. And I'm going to have all this stuff, the name of the juicer, the Gerson therapy, how to spell it, what to do, even the book I talked about, A World Without Cancer. I'm going to have all that stuff over there. So you don't have to remember this stuff. And I'm also going to get a link or something to this device, which basically my understanding is that the device increases blood flow to the area that you're targeting.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you take this home and your husband has pressure on his eyes.
Right.
You've got to have a serious, was it an operation?
Well, so here's the story on that. So, so the one thing that, with this device is that, the FDA doesn't allow us to talk about specific diseases. So I'm going to talk in generalities. So, so my husband, the year before we got this device, had been diagnosed with this high pressure in his eyes. And so, they put him on a lot of different prescription eye drops and things like that. And he's, nothing was working. So, no, it didn't work at all.
No,
so
it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Oh yeah, it definitely got worse. He goes back to the eye doctor like a year later, and the pressure jumped way up. I mean, like dangerously high. And they told him, they're like, you know what, you need to have tubes put in your eyes to relieve this pressure. Otherwise you're going to go blind. And so we had literally just gotten this device just a few days earlier, and we had heard that it was really good for eye issues, because again, you're increasing blood flow into your eyes, those little micro vessels. So anyway, we called the company and said, how do you use it for something like this? They told us. And so, my husband started using it, 8 minutes twice a day, 4 minutes on each temple. He goes back to the doctor because they had scheduled him for surgery 3 weeks from that last appointment. So he goes in and the doctor does a complete exam on him again. And so the pressure had dropped, not significantly, but it had dropped since the last visit. But what the doctor was blown away by is he said that my husband scored 100% on his peripheral vision. 3 weeks ago, he didn't come close to scoring 100% on his peripheral vision. He even went back for 5 years and has never scored that on his peripheral vision. And then there's another test called like an ocular nerve test or something where it's very sensitive, and it checks the nerve condition of the eyes, and he scored almost perfect on that. And so where the real testament came in is the eye doctor says to me, he says, Bill says that you can buy one of these things. He says, I want to buy one of these things. He says, this is amazing. And so he didn't buy it for the eye clinic. He bought it for he and his family. And so that was that. So whatever it was, even though I may not have totally understood what he was talking about, my husband's eyes, I knew that it was obviously very good, because why would he want to buy it if it wasn't? Yeah. So it goes back a year later, and his pressure is all the way down to normal, and his peripheral vision is 100%. His ocular nerve condition is 100%. He no longer has eye conditions, and all he did was use this device.
So how long does he spend on that device? I mean, how long does he have to spend?
Well, so what he does, so then he was using it twice a day, 8 minutes twice a day for his eyes. Okay. He would do 4 minutes on each temple. And then once we knew his eye condition was better, then he went to just once a day. And so he has this little routine, where again, he just wants to have good eye health. I don't have any eye issues. Eyes, just increase blood flow to my eyes, just so that it's good. And I just went to the eye doctor 2 days ago. When was it? Yeah, Monday. And he's just like, your eyes are fantastic. And I'll tell you what, you go to the dentist, they if you had any kind of gum issues or whatever, they immediately comment on, wow, the condition of your gums is fantastic. When you increase circulation, blood flow, all of your body, everything just generally improves.
So again, are you doing this 5 hours a day or 1 hour?
Oh gosh, no.
I just want the audience to understand how much time are you spending on that? How much time do you spend?
Okay, so there's like a basic program, and it's where you lay on the mat and you lay on it for 8 minutes, and that takes care of your whole entire body. Okay, that increases circulation from head to toe. Okay, if you have specific areas that you want to work on, like in my husband's case, his eyes. I suffered with chronic neck and back discomfort for 13 years. Okay, so that was the thing I wanted to work on. So my husband would do 4 minutes on each temple twice a day. He could do that at the same time he's doing the other 8 minutes. It's an accessory. Okay. Mm-hmm. So literally, I think my husband probably spends now, if you ask him, he likes to, there's a lot of things he likes to beam, if you get my drift, and increase circulation, blood flow to certain areas. All right, we won't talk specifically about anything, but men, that's their number one priority. Sorry. So increase blood flow everywhere. So I'm not sure how much time he spends in that department, but I don't think you'll get any complaint out of him.
So I'm going to post a big to do about that apparatus and what how it works, what it is, and where to get it if anyone's interested. Man, we've been on here for going on about an hour. I don't normally talk this long, but I just think it's so important, and I think your story is so needed and it's so necessary. And you're such a gracious guest, and you're being very transparent and talking about even personal things. And I appreciate you doing that so much. Again, you guys, you're just going to have to go to reinvestorsummit.com/heal, HEAL, and there'll be everything there to follow up. You don't have to remember or write down or keep your notes. I'll put everything there. I am on the way to get my apparatus. We have some issues at my house, and I've talked as talk about God things. Mm-hmm. So I meet you at the mastermind about
that's right
30 days ago, or I don't know, not very long ago. Never heard of this. Never in my life heard of this apparatus. And then I go to speak in North Carolina, and someone brings it up to me. I mean, to me, out of the blue, not really even related. And I thought to myself, this is the way I operate. So if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But I notice when God's trying to send me a signal. I notice something's trying to come through, and you stop, that old joke, why didn't you send me some help? I sent you 7 people. So I pay attention to things like that. And I'd been kind of on the fence about it because the apparatus it's not cheap in anybody's book. Uh-uh. It's not the worst thing in the world, but if it'll do some of the things that I've heard that it's done for other people, then I have no problem with it. It actually becomes extremely cheap at that point. What I mean? Like extremely cheap at that point. And so, a lot of the things that you did, you didn't choose chemo. Now, if you'd have chose chemo, your insurance or whatever would have paid for it. You'd have had, but you have to take on these monetary stresses yourself when you decide to go this route, and it's part of the struggle. I'm sure, as well as all the other things. But you have an amazing story. I would like to put inside my show notes, when you go to reinvestorsummit.com/healing, I'm also going to put Jacki's website, where she keeps in contact with the world, I think, now these days. So I'm going to put that over there, so you'll have a chance to talk to Jacki or to make comments. I don't know how you keep up. Can you even keep up with all the people that are contacting you now?
Well, what I had to do, so I was doing it just on Facebook because that was just the way I socialized. And it really became, quite overwhelming with, everyone contacting me. Yeah. So, when you're posting on Facebook, you just post, and I started doing this 3 years ago. So it kind of goes way back. And so new people just coming on don't get to hear the whole story. So people message me, tell me what you're doing. How did you do it? And there's lots and lots and lots and lots of questions. And I mean, it just became so overwhelming for me to try to answer because I wanted to help everybody. And so what I'm in the process of doing is I've created a website, and on that website, I tell my story. And so then
repeat it over and over again.
Exactly. So at least they're getting the beginning of the story and hearing, what have you. And so I'm sure I'll still get people. I'm actually in the process, my website, it's beautiful. I mean, I had a professional photographer come in and kind of, take pictures along my journey, the different things that I do. And it really, I'm very proud of it. So I'll be really glad when we get that published. We launch it this week.
So you kind of broke up there a minute. So you have a website coming out. It has kind of like a blog. Is it a blog?
It will be. So yeah. So it tells my story. Like, what, I got the call that I got cancer. Now what? And then it kind of goes a lot about some of the stuff we've talked about, today. And then there will be a blog section. And so I'm going to start using that as my platform, because I'm still going to the doctors. I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, they're still beating up on me. Nothing's changed. I had, after 2 years of, doing my Gerson therapy, I did go and have a PET scan done. So this is another thing that really blows you away. I have 2 years, I do a PET scan, and that looks for the cancer, right? I mean, it's not a fun thing. And I had no idea. All my blood work was good, but you don't know what can be hidden. And so they do the PET scan head to toe, and it comes back and I have no cancer anywhere in my body. But I have one lymph node under this left arm. That was the cancer side. One lymph node that showed some active cancer cells. But and I'm telling you, with my kind of cancer, even the oncologist, before I went for the PET scan, he says, you should be covered in cancer by now. But I wasn't. I had one lymph node. And I'm doing some things. I'm still working on that naturally. The surgeon wanted to cut all my lymph nodes out under that arm. And I'm like, I don't want them all cut out. Can't you just take the one? And he's like, well, that would be stupid. If you got it in one, you have it in all of them. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're not going to do business then. And I left. And so, I now work with a doctor that specializes in the lymphatic system. And so that's a whole nother, I go days without eating or drinking anything. It's a lot cheaper than my Gerson because I don't eat or drink. I have to do 48-hour fast, no food or water for 48 hours and stuff. And then lemon fast and just a whole bunch of different things, which I have on my website. And so what happens, it causes me to swell up sometimes. And oh my God, they freak out. Oh, you've got a secondary cancer. You need to do this. You need to start your chemo. You need to do radiation. And I'm just like, boy, they just don't get it. That is never going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I'm so proud of you. What a great story. I'd like to thank everybody for taking this little sidestep with me. And those of y'all that get to listen, if you know somebody that needs this, get it over to them. Forward a copy of this to someone. Everybody knows someone that needs some kind of hope or needs another opinion, and that's all that's offered here. So go to reinvestorsummit.com/heal HEAL, and you'll get everything you need there. We'll have you all fixed up. I want to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Jacki Simon and hear her story. And I wish you everybody the best of health, and we need to pay attention to what's going on because they're not really making the greatest diet for us out there, and they're not really taking care of us maybe completely the way we ought to be taking care of ourselves. So we got to study up. We've got to learn from others and learn from the journey of others. And, if something doesn't feel right to you, then do something else. Thank you very much, Jacki.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate you having me.
All righty. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. Thanks for sharing a day about healing. We're out of here. Bye now. Bye, Jacki.
Bye-bye. Thanks.